Jim and Terry Show. We're now armed and dangerous, recording in the Hobbit Hole with one mic because we're too poor to buy a second one.
Oh, I forgot to bring the spare with me, and it's just part of. Can I use old age now?
Yes, you can.
Kind of
it's
just
valid.
forget the basic things.
I support that.
Well, Terry supported the time I forgot my pants. Okay, but the mic, that's a different story.
Yeah, the microphone. Here we go. We're trying our best to think out of the box in this series. And maybe that's because we have, in the Hobbit Hole, decided to find a way forward so that you don't just come for breakfast and lunch, but you earn your keep by talking. And
yeah, we found a way to do the show.
We're hoping it turns out.
With this little echo in the background. And we do have other plans to repair the Supertonic mic that's right now parked behind us, leaning up against a wall, which broke.
But I'm using that broke microphone as an opportunity to learn how to repair a mic.
Yes.
There you go. Ordered the part. We'll see if it works.
Jeepers, and it's cramped in this little
It is, and you're perched on a
stool. This is called a stool.
Have you ever seen, I sent you a little snippet of a program about how a former submarine ended up in a small town.
I watched it all.
Isn't it fascinating?
It is
It's on the shores of Lake Erie off some little river.
Yeah.
And it got transported by a barge.
I looked it up on the map and everything. I was down that area last summer. And
I'll have to look it up.
I was probably no more than a half an hour from there.
Wow. To me, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
The story of how a town decided that they wanted some memorabilia of Canada's military contribution.
It's so funny because the funniest thing I found, or the strangest thing I found about it, they made all these arrangements, and the sub was donated. Okay, you can have it.
Yes. You can have a sub.
Just pay the transportation to get it to you. $5 million.
Yeah, and for a small town.
Well, they couldn't meet it.
They couldn't meet it, so that's the story. Then no, there's a voluntary tax for surrounding communities. Maybe chip in a Ontario thing.
Well, something happened because it's still there, and it's a
still,
museum,
well,
and you can go to it
now.
Well, I guess it's kind of stuck there, yeah.
So I don't know.
But they did default.
Yeah, it's an Oberon class submarine from the UK, I believe.
Huge too, quite big.
Well, you were saying cramped in our submarine here, or whatever you were.
Well, it was a Canadian-owned sub. It was made.
It's a UK.
British
we
sub.
bought a British sub,
yeah.
So they discarded.
Well, that's all we did have, I think, didn't we?
Yes, and we bought nuclear-powered subs from them as well, and I don't know how those have turned out. Is there another community that's looking for a used sub to park in their park?
Lesson to be learned. Nothing's free.
Yeah, nothing's free. You think it's free, but you got to pay for transportation. I don't know how we were getting that, except that you're shifting on your little perch.
This is incredibly uncomfortable.
And I was going to say, did you see the captain's quarters in that Oberon class?
Did you hear him say the one captain was 6'7"?
Yes, and the bulkhead's about 5 feet, so down you go.
And he had a little desk there, and
yeah, he had to get his desk. It's just like this, and it flipped down. You had to back in, and then you slid it down in front of you.
I know, that looked like hell.
Oh my gosh! And these are the people who are at sea for months.
I don't know how they do it. I'd go. Last thing I'm ever going to do is go on a sub for that long.
Well, here's a shout out to all of our military. We take them for granted. We don't celebrate them. They often come home broken with mental challenges, and we don't support them. You were saying that could be a use for your lottery.
Yeah.
Which was to support veterans coming back who need help.
Everything military.
Everything. If you expect them to serve, you expect care.
Yeah, I think it's foolishness not to have a military. So if you're going to have a military, have them adequate. Because part of the problem is, and I know you didn't want the show to be this, but part of the problem is it's not just war killing things. It's being able to keep our warriors alive.
Yeah.
And survive.
And give them the best equipment possible to do the duty we assign them. And we, the civilians, assign them the duty to protect us. We agree we're paying X amount of dollars in our taxes to do it. Yeah. Okay. Question, maybe, out of the box thinking, should we change in Canada the way most countries, and I'm thinking of Israel especially, every civilian when you reach age 18, you serve in the military for 2 or 3 years. I'm not sure which
Yeah,
compulsory service.
I don't think we need that simply because we're not in that danger zone as they are, and I can totally understand.
So everybody needs to be trained because they're in the Middle East.
They're in the middle,
and hell could break loose at any moment, and everybody needs to know how to defend themselves.
That's right.
Except if you live in a kibbutz and you got Hamas coming at you.
But you see, my plan in my mind. Remember, I told you that lottery ticket could also have promotion and advertising for the military, where you'd end up having the life.
So this is subliminal messaging using lotteries.
Yeah, and
that's out of the box.
Part of that, pride to the service itself, and then maybe even be able to pay a little bit of danger money to the people. I know we do that. I think if you're deployed, your wages. So. I think your wages go up.
I hope so.
Yeah, so maybe they could go up a little bit more to encourage people to go into danger. I don't know.
Remember, the casualties of service can be represented tangibly in the case of our own Romeo Dallaire and the Civil War. Civil War is the way it happened in the Congo. I think it was Congo, and that's the devil's. Shake Hands with the Devil. If you've read the movie, seen the movie, or read the book.
Are you talking Rwanda?
Is it Rwanda? Yeah, the Hutus and the Tutsis.
Yeah, oh hell, 900,000 people were butchered.
Slaughtered.
Yep.
And the instructions were he had to sit back.
Yeah.
And that, to me, please do not ask somebody who's serving either Canada, our armed forces, or NATO, or in this case it was the UN. He was a UN peacekeeper. Don't send them there if you're not going to empower them to protect people.
I agree with you.
That's awful.
It was horrible.
And he's paid the price with mental health and his overall health, but what he was
900,000 people butchered.
How could
I remember seeing those pictures.
Yeah.
900,000. That's a lot of people to be butchered. You think Gaza looks bad.
Well, it reminds me of...
Oh, and they weren't shot in the head, by the way, or blown up with bombs. Hacked to death with
machetes.
Hatchets and machetes.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
So don't forget that. This is a Canadian lived experience. Romeo Dallaire, if you haven't got the book or seen the movie, please shake hands with the devil. And it is. That's what the compromise is when you tell military trained people who could help and could intervene not to.
Let it all happen.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Out of the box thinking. We sort of looked at housing. We looked at the military. How about out of the box thinking for education? That's one of the things that you like to go to. What can we change up? What is the current grievance about education? I'm going to use the word that the Conservative Party is using all the time. Canada's broke. PPE says that all the time, Pierre Poilievre. It's broken. Canada's broken. So I'm going to take a look at to what extent it's broken, and is that a fair assessment? And if so, what can be done to repair or fix what we have?
Well, there's your bigger there. He might be right. I don't know. I don't cover things as much as you. But one thing I am getting a little sick of is people just making statements but with no solutions. No, here's what we'll do. It's broke. We're going to fix it. Well, how are you going to fix it? How are you going to do that? And really spell it out. And that's the biggest problem there. I don't like people just saying, "No, that's stupid. Think of something else." No, you think of something else then.
Okay, so if education is a problem, and we don't have specifics to deal with it, is it a problem? Are we still training doctors, lawyers, engineers, architects, nurses, support staff, EMS workers, civil engineering? We've got people who are responsible for industry support, digging foundations, putting in water and sewage supplies, all the stuff that goes on for maintaining life and normalcy in a urban context. Are we not still training all these people?
Yeah, I assume we are.
Okay, so I'm going to say the system is broken is not a fair claim. You may wish it to look differently than it is, but that's a different thing than saying globally it's broken.
Well, but that's the same sort of way in which Trump just throws stuff out, and there again, a lot of it's not true. I don't know if the country's broken. If it is, it's the world's broken as well. So we probably could do a lot of things better. I just don't have the solutions for everything. I thought you were going to go with the cost of tuition.
Well, let's talk about stuff like that. So specifically, I will go to one thing that the Americans do well, which Canada is doing, and I know it from my daughter's experience in Calgary. And this is sort of you pay a tax, but you can shop that education tax to a school of your choice.
Yeah, well,
sounds fair because it's
I'm
mobility.
Just gonna say, isn't that a good thing?
And the answer to, in my opinion, is no. And the reason, and you can convince me otherwise, is that all schools began serving a local population. In fact, the town used to have their own board that would manage the school, and that's where we get our boards of education. They're boards of the local people who say, we want this kind of school. Oh, let's hire that kind. And that's how they did it.
Good point.
And I'm wondering if we got away from local accountability with this notion, and Americans have got it good. They want to privatize schools so that there's no public education. Zero. You get to shop for profit to whatever school in whatever district. And can you see where I'm going with this about inequity? That there will be the poor schools who never get people coming out, and it's a law of diminishing returns. They get poorer and poorer because nobody's going to go. Nobody's going to take their tax chit, their education certificate, and say, I want to go to your school. They'll abandon the inner city schools. They'll go to the rich urban settings and the better neighborhoods with the better facilities, better athletic field. Didn't we hear Brett Favre in the United States offering money, his own personal wealth, if the university would build this, I'm not sure, it was a stadium or a field or a tennis court for his daughter. And his money donation was based on, if you do this, I will give this much. So, of course, they said yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And that's the American way. Money talks.
Well, yeah, I guess it does. I don't know.
But should it?
Well, I don't know. I really don't know. I do like the idea of the local community and everything being able, but in this world and trying to produce the best of everything, and your career as a football player, I could see why you would want to go to the school that's going to get you to the NFL.
Okay, so at some level,
I'm not saying it's right.
Yeah,
I can just see
at some
where
level
it's going.
You will want to do that. I'm not sure you should do it in the K-8 system. Maybe you could start with having a separation. We did this even in Ontario. We used to have schools that were designed or designated a school for the arts, for instance.
Yeah. I went to sort of a trade school.
Yeah,
it was in between. It was in between the you're not going to make it and the economic brilliance. I was in between. That's where I went, and rightfully so, because at that time, well, I had my problems, which I didn't even know I had. I just figured I wasn't bright.
And that's not it at all.
Yeah, we're kind of out of time, my friend.
We're out of time. The Jim and Terry Show, solving things that money might solve if we distributed money more equitably.
We're going to be dead soon, too.
The Jim and Terry Show. Bye-bye for now.